What's going on, folks? I'm going to show you how you would be using some wire cutters just in case you was to be doing some electrical work. Wire cutters are one of the best things that you can pretty much have to make the job very simple to do. If not, you'll be using scissors and butter knives and knives and all type of different stuff trying to cut wires into strip wires. These wire cutters right here, which you may get for say, $15 to $30 pretty much, can do multiple things. You can basically cut your wire, you can strip your wire, as well as you can use crimping to put connections on the end of your wire, as well as you can actually cut screws and stuff with these, as well as thread your screws, like your machine screws. So the first thing to look at your wire strippers or wire cutters, whichever you want to call them, is the first piece up here. These little teeth that you see up here that has numbers on them, this is the part of your wire cutter, if you see it closely, that tells you basically which size wire that you have if you want to strip it pretty much. So when you're getting wire, they come in different sizes. Like this wire right here is a 12 gauge, 12-2 gauge, meaning that the size of it is size 12 and it has two wires inside of it, a white and a black, and it has a ground wire inside of it. So that's why it's called a 12-2 gauge. So depending on what type size wire that you have, it's going to tell you which size on your wire strippers you want to use. Since we know that this, and it's actually, if you look at this wire closely, a lot of time on the wire itself, it'll tell you exactly what type of wire that it is. So I don't know if this piece has it on there, but a lot of time the actual, like say this could be 14-2, 12-2, it could be size 10, whichever one it is. Just look at your wire and you should know. If you're working on something in your house, like say you're working on an outlet or you're installing like some type of a new lighting, like some halo lights or something like that, most likely you'll either be working with 14-2 wire, or either you'll be working with 12-2 wire, because that's the most common wires that's used in a house to run stuff like outlets, fans, and stuff like that. So this happens to be 12-2. So say for example, I want to strip this piece of white wire right here, so I have a piece of exposed metal pretty much. What I would do is I would take my wire strippers and I'm going to look up at this top piece right here. These little teeth are at. So when I find, I'll see like right here, I see 12. So what I'm going to do now is just take the piece of wire where it says 12 at. 12 says 10. And then it says 12. I'm going to put the piece right there in that gap. Close it. Watch how simple it is. I closed it. And I'm just going to wiggle a little bit and pull it off. And as you see, just like that, I was able to strip down this piece of wire with these strippers. It's a super simple job to do with some wire cutters, wire strippers, versus trying to use a knife or trying to use your teeth or something like that, trying to strip this down. So once again, to strip the wire down, what you want to know is what size wire this is. This outside part of it's called Romex. But so that tells you overall what size wires are going to be inside of it. So if you have, like this one is a 12-2, so therefore you know it's going to be size 12 wires that's inside of it. So you're going to want to use the size 12 part on your strippers to strip these wires down. Say for example, this was size 14. Then you would look on your strippers, and as you can see up there, it says 14. You're going to put your wire inside of that slot, close it down, wiggle a little bit, and strip it straight off. And that's going to allow you to strip off the piece of the wire. Now, the next part on the strippers I want to talk about is this little piece right here. Looks like a cutter. And that's exactly what it is. On different wire strippers, it may be in a different location, but on these, it's right behind the stripper part of it. It's going to be the cutters. Now say for example, I want to cut this wire. Say this ground wire right here is too long and I want to cut it down. So all I have to do is come in with the stripper. See how I got it? And then just cut. It cuts very easily with a pair of good wire cutters. As you can see, it cut that piece straight off of it. It takes absolutely no real pressure, just a little snap, and it's cut off. And that's what this part right here your wire strippers are. Looks just like a cutter. Is what you're going to be using to actually cut your pieces of wire. Now, say for example, you're going to be installing something and you don't have these pieces already sticking out. Say it's just flat like that with the Romex part of your wire is showing. So if you want to get this big thick part of your wire pulled back to say expose these wires, expose the inside wires, what you could use is the front part of these strippers has like little teeth on it that you can use to kind of grab onto. I'm gonna grab onto the outside, barely pinch it. You don't want to damage the wires inside. Barely pinch, and then you can just twist it just like that. And you want to do that until you get like a nice hole. As you can see, I just did right here. I just got like a nice hole inside of that wire. And once you do that, of course, if you have a pair of scissors or something like that laying around, or you have some scissors with, you can take any type. I just got like some little kid scissors, and you can just then go ahead on and basically cut the rest of this on through. Or you can just take your fingers normally and kind of rip that off like that. Let's see how I'm doing. I'm just kind of taking my hand now and kind of ripping it. And once I get, I'm going to show you in a second. Yeah, this stuff is not too hard to get off normally. You just have to kind of pull it. Okay, see how it's coming off? And that's the outside part of it. And see, once I get it like that, then I can always come back to my wire strippers itself and just grab it, pinch it. Like I said, don't get the wires, and just pull it. Now you see how I'm pulling that piece completely off? So now I have more of the wires inside of it exposed. And you always want to cut this paper off, or tear that piece of paper off. That way you have more of your actual wires that you're going to be working with exposed. And of course, in these wires, the black one is your hot wire, that's your neutral, and that's your ground. Get the rest of this paper off. See this piece of paper, so if I needed to, I can just take my strippers, that cut part, and cut that off just like that pretty much. And I'm pretty much good on those. So like I said, if you need to actually take off the outside insulation on the Romex part of your wires, and you could use, if you got, like I said, some decent strippers, normally the very front of it is going to allow you to basically pull and take that part off. So now you know what the very front of it can do on these. The second part of it, like I showed you, is the stripper part of it, which means once you know what size wire you got, like this is a 12-2. So once I pull back the outside Romex part, I'm getting the wires. I know these are size 12. Remember, it's called a 12-2 because there's 2 wires in a ground. Say, for example, it was a 12-3. That would mean, say, I had a white, a black, and a red in a ground. So the ground's always in there, so they don't count that. So what type of wire it is always going to be based on how many wires are inside of it besides the ground. So this is a 12-2. It's 12 gauge wire with 2 wires inside of it in the ground. So once I know that, like I said, I'm going to look at my wire cutters, go to the part up top where the stripper part's at, and put it inside of, I'm going to show you another piece. I'm going to go ahead and strip this black piece. I know this is 2. So, I know it's a size 12. Go into the size 12 part. Make sure it's lined up. There's a 12. Close it down on it. See, I got it down. And then I'm just going to pull. See how easy that's coming off? Now that's basically stripped back also. And that's how you would use basically your front part to pinch the outside of the wire to get that outside part of it, and then also to strip the wires in the inside of it you're going to be using these teeth up here, which are numbered. And remember, you want to use the exact number to match the type of wire you got, and you're good. Now, I'm going to show you about crimping now. I'll say, for example, you're using this wire on some type of a device that you want. Say you're using for speakers, use the speaker wire. So you see this is like a piece that you could put on there, like a connector, to where, say, you could plug this on to something. So since you have this, going a little closer for you. Okay, so you have this piece right here, and what you want to do, say, is stick it onto the end of this wire right here. So what you want to do is you could take this little piece, stick it on the opening, and you want to make sure that it's not sticking up too far. If you can see in there, that piece is coming out kind of far. So I want to have it about even with the blue, where it's not sticking all the way out, because if it is, it'll have a problem plugging onto where I'm trying to plug it onto. So what I want to do is cut some of this wire off. So I know how much I kind of need cut off, that much. So I take my wire cutters, I go into the cutting part of it. I kind of remember how much I need to cut off. Simply cut. Now that I have that cut, I can take my piece I'm going to crimp again and stick it in there. Now you can see it's not sticking through. It's like that's how I want it, to where the wire is not sticking out into this part right here that's going to actually connect onto something. So now I'm going to be doing is coming to my wire cutters. What I'm going to look at is this part down here is the crimping part of it. You see that part right here? You see where it says, look like 16 to 10, 22 to 18. Now we know that the size wire that we're using is size 12. So we're going to be using the top part where it says 16 to 10. This is the part that we're going to want to crimp this with, because this is the right size wire. So, go ahead and get this oriented. I got this on here like that. Then I'm going to be, back out a little bit. Then I'm going to be taking the wire strippers, putting the blue part right there where it says, get it on there. So I got it on there. You kind of want to, if there's a line that's also inside of your connector, you want to make sure if there's like, say there's like a line that's right here, like a joint almost, you want to make sure that that joint faces up and down in your actual strippers. So you want that to face top and bottom pretty much. So I got that on there. I'm holding it. I got it in the right spot. Then once I do that, I'm just clamping down with the wire cutters. And when I do that, as you can see, it basically crimped it on there nice and good. See how it did? It's not going anywhere now. That wire is on there. And if you can see, it's not sticking out too far down there. It's a little piece sticking out, but that wouldn't be an issue. But you just want to make sure that you kind of get that as back far as you can before you crimp it on there. And of course, if you don't feel like it's tight enough, you can always take your crimper again, put it back on there. You see how I'm doing? And crimp down on it with the right size. Like I said, if you look at the measurements, you'll see right here where it says 16 to 10, and since we know it's a size 12 wire, we're going to use that spot right there to basically put a connector on this wire. Now I can go through and do all of them the same way. I could put one on here if I want to, as well as I could put one on here if I chose to. But this is how you would use your wire cutters to crimp. Remember, this is all in one tool. So basically with these same wire cutters, you can use the front part to strip down the Romex part of the wire when you get it. You can use the teeth up here to actually strip your wire. Then you can use the part back here to actually put connections onto your wire, your crimping part of it. Now, this middle part right here, if you can see these little holes right here, what these allow you to do is to actually cut like machine screws and stuff. So say you have a screw like this that you're going to be using for something, but say it's too long and you need to cut it down. So first of all, make sure you know exactly what size screw that you have. Because if you could look close on here, it says like 532, 440, 1024, 540. So say for example, this happens to be a 532. So I'm going to take this screw, I'm going to open up the holes to where I can see a complete circle. I'm taking this screw and I'm kind of going to screw it in somewhat. I'm going to use this hole right here because this screw may be a little bit bent up. You take it, put it inside a hole just like that. And once you got it in the hole, as far as you want it, always put the screw in from the top. Never flip it over and stick it this way. You want to stick your screw in the right hole. Like I said, first of all, know exactly what size screw you have. Look on your tool to see the right size that matches that. You want to stick your screw inside of that hole, the one that matches. And once you get it down as far as you want it, like say I want to cut off this much. I'm cutting this screw almost in half. Yeah, I'm going to cut it almost a half so you can really see what happens. When you cut this, what it does is it'll cut it as well as it's going to rethread it when you take it back out. So I put it inside there now with a little bit of force. See how I did? I cut that, and as you can see, that piece right there popped off. So I'll cut this screw in half. Now to rethread it, I can stick it back in that hole in a circle, and I can turn it back inside of the hole. Sometimes you may have to use a screwdriver when you're rethreading it somewhat, but you just want to put it back in that hole, and you want to thread that bottom part just in case it's not threaded right inside the same hole. You want to make the hole be back to the circle again. Stick it back into the hole and then turn it in. Sometimes after you cut it, you can just screw the screw back out and you'll thread it that way also. But if for some reason it's not threaded right, you can just take it, put the hole, make it back circle again, put your screw back in it, and then screw it in. Like I said, you may want to get a screwdriver if it's too hard for your hands, but just screw that in and it should rethread that screw. So this is what this part is for right here with these circles. It actually allows you to cut your screws down to the size that you need them, as well as allows you to rethread them pretty much just by cutting it. So once again, just a quick recap. To use your wire cutters, the first part up here on these is going to allow you to like grab and pinch. Like if you're trying to take off the outside insulation off of a Romex piece of wire. And then the second part in here is what you're going to be using to strip your wires. Right here, like I said, you want to pick the right size, know what size wire you have to put in the right slot, close it and strip it. The holes right here actually allow you to cut your screws as well as to rethread your screws. Like I said, know what size screw you got so you'll know what size to stick it inside of to properly cut it and to rethread it. And then this part back here is going to allow you to actually put some crimping. It allows you to add connectors onto your wires pretty much. There's all type of different connectors you can get. But this part right here is going to allow you to do that. And of course this piece right here is just a cutter. So if this was wrong and I wanted to cut this off, I would just take it right there, quick cut. Then I can start again. I have this piece. If I want to strip it back down, I would use the outside. Then if I want to strip this part off, I will go back into my size 12 opening, just like that. Clamp it. And then just like that, I will be able to strip a piece off just like I just did. Alright folks, please check out our other helpful videos. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.